Hi everyone. In the last video, I spoke about staying close to cash and starting small. In an era or in an environment where raising external cash, external funding is quite difficult, the ability to manage cash flow ultimately becomes a survival skill. It separates those who stay in the business from those who, run out of business or run out of cash at the end of the day. So you'll agree with me that cash is the soul of any business. You run out of it, you run out of business. Today, I want to spend some time to talk about effective ways to extend your cash runway and give your business some ease of life. My name is Deji Adebusoye. I'm a partner at Sciol Capital, and I'm also the author of Scaling for Success, Empowering African SMEs. The first thing I'll talk about is cash flow forecasting. This is something that many entrepreneurs are not very used to because it always looks a bit vague. Intuitively, many people know how to think about how cash comes in and goes out. But this is an exercise that as an entrepreneur, you need to do at minimum on a weekly basis. And it doesn't have to be complex. What you need to do is you pull out an Excel sheet and you have a weekly column for the next 6 months, for example. On one line, you want to have your cash inflow. In other words, what cash comes into my business on a weekly basis. You want to be able to plot that out. And don't confuse cash with income. You might make an income, for example, you may sell something today and the cash does not come in another 3 weeks. That is not cash, that is income. Yes, it might turn into cash much later, but that is not what you want to track at this point. You can have a separate place where you track your income or your revenue. But on this cash forecast, what you want to track is what cash comes in. So in this week 1, what amount of cash am I expecting? It could come in the form of payments from your customers. Like I said earlier, it could come in the form of grants. Maybe you receive grants from some parties, or it could even come in form of monies that you borrow that is actually eventually coming into the business. You want to plot that out as cash inflow. Then on a separate line, you want to have your cash outflow. And this is usually recorded against when those cash flows will take place. So you are expecting that I want to buy raw materials in week 1 and week 3, and I will be buying so amount in dollars or in naira or in Kenyan shillings of raw materials. You want to record that amount in the week you expect it to happen. I'm going to buy electricity, I'm going to pay for water, I'm going to pay for internet and data. You want to have that. In what week is that payment going to go out? I'm going to pay rent and it's a lump sum. In your income statement, you might be treating that as amortized on a monthly basis, but in your cash flow statement, your cash flow forecasting, when is that cash going out? You want to put that in the week it is happening. You're going to be paying salaries. You pay salaries on the maybe 25th of every month or on the last day of every month. You want to include that the day salaries will be going out. Once you have your cash inflow and your cash outflow, the net of that is your cash flow. And so on a monthly basis, by the time you now accumulate it, what amount is left at the end of the last month plus the cash flow this month becomes your cash flow, ending cash flow at the end of this month. You accumulate that and you begin to get a good idea of what your cash flow looks like. The reason why this is critical is going to become apparent as we go on, because it helps you to know what can you play around with, what can you move forward a bit, what can you move backwards, what can you create as an intervention or a bridge to be able to help you manage your cash flow. But this first step is extremely critical to help you gain some form of control over your cash. Now, the second thing I'm going to dwell on today, and in maybe subsequent videos, we'll talk about other means of managing your cash flow, but it is about managing your working capital proactively. Many companies and many entrepreneurs just treat working capital as, okay, I need money to do certain things, to buy goods. My customers will not pay me on time, my suppliers. And at the end of the day, you realize that for the next set of sales you want to do, you don't have money to buy the raw material, even though you have made sales, but the money is not just coming in on time. So you need to think about, how can I manage my working capital very proactively? Now, working capital is usually driven by one of 4 things. It's either your receivables, your payables, your inventory, or the cash you have on hand. And I'll go through each of them one by one. Starting with your receivables. Another way to put out your receivables, these are monies that your customers owe you. You've sold to them, you've provided a service to them, and they've promised that they will pay you maybe in 3 months. They've promised they will pay you in 6 months. The money that is owed to you, those are your receivables. The best scenario when you are, you have a cash crunch is to make sure that as you're providing that service or you're selling a product, you are receiving your cash. That is the best scenario you want. But unfortunately, the reality you will see is that does not happen quite often, especially when you're a small business. A lot of your customers want some receivable days before they pay you. They want 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, before they pay you. Your goal at this point is to see how you can reduce the number of days or the number of weeks it takes to receive your cash as much as possible. There are a few things you can do in order to be able to achieve that. One, have a clear payment terms with your customers. What this will ensure is that both of you are not guessing whether you receive money from them, when, in what situation. Both of you are very clear on the terms of your engagement. They know within 2 weeks they need to pay you, and you can properly also do your cash flow knowing that in 2 weeks, what I've sold now, I expect payment in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, if you don't have clear payment terms with them, they might be oblivious to the fact that you want to receive your payment at some particular point in time. So in their own pecking order, they probably do not prioritize you, not because they don't want to pay you, but there are other people they have contractual agreement with, and they want to meet those contractual obligations. You want to make sure that you have clear payment terms with your customers. Number two, you want to make sure that a member of your team, and could be you, depending on how large your team is focused on writing your customers, sending invoices to them, calling them before payment is even due, so that you are top of mind. And when they're actually preparing the names of the list of their suppliers that they want to pay, you are top of mind to them. You want to send out the invoices to them in time so that you ensure that your payment also comes in on time. Third thing is you want to, where possible, you want to give incentives for early repayments. So a good example, you want to give like a 0.5% discount if your customers pay you earlier than is stipulated on the contract. If you think about it, capital has a cost. Every capital has a cost. So those 2 weeks or 3 weeks that your money is staying with them, whether you like it or not, you are like a lender to them of some sort, not just a bank. They are using your money during that period to run their business. So let's assume, for example, you need that 2 weeks worth of funds to go and borrow from your bank. It's going to cost you something to borrow from your bank. What you want to do is to say, what is it going to cost me to borrow this money from the bank? Can I pass a fraction of that potential cost to the customers and ask them to repay early? Many of them might see it as, oh, okay, brilliant. If I'm going to get a 0.5%, 0.75%, 1% discount on this service or on this product just by paying 1 week earlier than planned, they might be willing to give you that cash earlier than you planned for. The second area, apart from receivables, that you need to focus on in terms of managing your cash flow is the area of payables. And payables is just monies that you owe other people. And this could be employees, for example, salaries you pay to them, or suppliers, which is the raw materials you buy, or the government, which is taxes or other statutory obligations you have to the government, or lenders if you have money that you borrowed and you need to repay. So payables are the monies that you owe to other people. The same thing with receivables. The longer you can delay paying out money, the more cash you have on hand. Now, let's pay attention to this. It's not advisable to hold off paying your stakeholders beyond what is contractually agreed. That is not what I'm asking you to do, because it can create bad blood. It can create distrust between you and your suppliers. So you don't want to create that kind of bad energy between you and them, and they don't trust you. So the goal here is to see how can you ensure when you are negotiating payment agreements with your suppliers, negotiate some flexible arrangements or payment agreements with them. The same way your own customers are asking you for 2-3 weeks before payment, can you agree with some of your, especially your suppliers, can you give me 2-3 weeks to pay? Contractually, sign a contract with them and make sure you stay and you fulfill that obligation. When it's 3 weeks, become one of those customers that they don't need to call. They know within 3 weeks, you will pay. You know why? Because you can go back to them after 3 months and say, you see, I've honored every 3 weeks. Can I move this back to 4 weeks? And I'll pay you every 4 weeks. They are likely to listen to you because you've honored that obligation. But in negotiating the payment agreement with them, you want to try as much as possible to see how you can extend your runway. There are some areas that I would advise you not to delay payments, such as paying your employees' salaries. If your salaries are supposed to be paid on the 26th or on the 25th or the last of the month, let your employees' salaries be paid. But for example, you can delay paying your own salary. You can treat your salary as a loan to the company, make it contractual. that my salary this month, especially if you have some other means of income, my salary this month I'm treating as a loan to the company, and so you delay paying yourself a salary until money comes into play. The inventory is the third place where you can manage cash flow very strategically. And basically, inventory is just whatever money you have that is tied down, either as stock, or some people call it raw material, or as inventory, but it is money that you have tied down. The reality is that strategically, it might make sense really to hold inventory for a long period of time in certain instances. For example, if you plant a crop, if I plant rice, because I'm planting and I'm going to harvest, I will improve my margins rather than just buying and selling. The margins are better if I plant. So you are holding the inventory in the ground for 4 months, before you harvest the rice and sell. Or for example, you buy a raw material during a period of excess supply. Maybe there's harvest, or there is, all of a sudden import of some raw materials, or there's a production that just made the raw material significantly available in the market. You can take that, that raw material and buy it and hold it in excess in inventory. There's a strategic reason to that, because it will help you to reduce your overall cost. You can also decide to stock up on inventory when supply is volatile. This can become a competitive advantage, especially raw materials that, there's fluctuation in their supply. So you hold and you keep. And as a result, when, there's dearth in the market, you can bring that out and start using in your own production process. However, the point I'm trying to make is that a time when you're managing cash is not when you do any of this. The reality is that what you will lose in the upside of holding that inventory, you gain by having cash to turn around in your business. A good example, there was somebody I was speaking with that I told that, look, you're currently running out of cash. It's in the hack sector. You're running out of cash. You're struggling a bit with your cash flow, but you still want to go ahead to plant. You're going to hold that cash in the ground for 4 months. During those 4 months, you could have turned around that cash 2-3 times, buying and selling. Margins will be smaller than you would have made if you planted, but you turn around cash faster, you make income, and the aggregate income you make, is able to keep your business afloat and keep your business going during that period. So it's smart. Inventory is one of the tools in which you can use to manage cash flow. If it's a critical product that is the life of your business, and you know that if you don't buy and hold a little bit of inventory, then your business might go bust. Then of course, there's intelligence in being able to balance properly and see what volume you should hold versus what you should keep in cash that you can turn around very quickly in your business. The last thing I'll talk about under this subject of managing your cash flow is an interesting one, which is the cash you have on hand. Whatever cash you hold must be applied towards whatever activity would help generate more cash and much faster. You have cash in hand today. It's not the time to put the cash into some ideas or some dreams, or time to spend frivolously on things that are not directly affecting the supply of cash in your business and the speed of cash recovery in your business. So any money you have should be used towards this purpose. A good example is food that you might know is a producer of peppers and spices. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, in Nigeria. One of the things, when they started that business, of course, it's going to take time to grow and build it to what it was up. It's going to, become like what it is today. It was going to take time. So what the founders did at that point was they started an advisory firm called Sahel Advisory, which of course Sahel Capital, where I work now, also came out from. They started that advisory just so that they can keep cash coming in to manage their, the cash in the business while they were building Ace Food. That entity they started as just an advisory to bring cash, of course, has a life of its own now. Many things have been born out of it. The Sahel Consulting, Sahel Capital, they've all been born out of that. And Ace Food itself is standing very strongly. The point I'm trying to make here is that you can find something to do to build that cash on hand while you're building your business. I don't know if you've read the book on the Shoe Dog, the biography of Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. When he was building Nike, one of the things, the company was called Blue Ribbon at the time. When he was building Blue Ribbon, he had to take a job with Pricewaterhouse as an auditor at some point. And eventually, again, at some other point, he became a professor at a university and was teaching accounting 101. But during the night and on weekends, he was busy building Blue Ribbon because he realized that he required the cash, to hold to come into the business. at that point. All this was just to ensure that there is always some extra cash coming in to provide some runway to the business. Now, this might not be what people would like to hear, but the reality is that when you have a cash crunch in your business, why not consider taking a day job, for example? Spend your nights and weekends building your business while you are also able to take some of the cash salaries that you're earning and you can be putting it back into your business. These are just some ideas. These are just some thoughts on how you can begin to look at how you move and manage cash flow in your business. Thank you for listening. And I'd like to say, if you found this helpful or insightful, please feel free to share with your friends and loved ones and other entrepreneurs or SME owners that you have in your circle. I'd like to throw this question to you. Is there some topic or something that is interesting that you would like me to speak about or help to shed some light on relating to running and managing your SME? Please drop it in the comment section, and I will be happy to discuss this in a future video and share with everyone. Thank you very much once again.